that sensation of allowing, like if you can, it's kind of, in order to let this allowing to be a mind body sensation, that actually comes, I think, for me at least, from Shavasana. So it's like, I know if you practice enough, relaxation at the end of class, you know what it's like to allow, especially if you're on the ground, but even in your chair, your whole body to get supported. And so when I say allow now, and I want it to be a mind body sensation, I don't want you to just ungrip your brow, your mental awareness. I want you to, on the next few exhalations, try to allow and exhale and let your whole body come into your focus. Right. So that's why I pay a little bit more attention to the exhalation. Right. So just feel and allow. Because for a while we've been kind of paying attention to the relationship between the allowing and what that opens you up to. Remember, like, it's a funny thing that we live our lives differently than this, but you don't have to prove anything to anybody at the level that you're trying to connect with in the beginning of class. So there's allowing and then there's allowing. And part of it, remember, what we're trying to do is there's all these messages coming to your brain and then your mind picks up on some of them. What you're trying to do is keep the brain more in neutral, so more filters into it, gets to it, and then your mind can then open to it. So this allowing is actually quite important. So then, following this allowing, like release the skin on your face. So one of the ways that yoga tries to get to that deeper place of allowing is to soften the organs of perception. So that means we're going to want to soften around the eyes and the temples. So what's interesting is that if you have trouble sleeping at night, it's not bad to do this kind of exercise to help you sleep. But now we're doing it in preparation of action. So like there's a slight movement and release to the personality muscles, right? Your face. And so you're trying to let the forehead especially soften and let it kind of drop towards the eyebrows. Release around the temples, because for most of your day today, you're going to be like having your mental awareness follow your vision. So you're softening around the temples and even letting the eyes kind of sink underneath the cheekbones, and then your jaw and the inside of your mouth. Even the base of your tongue, right? Which then can connect to your inner ear. So these same type of things would be happening in Shavasana. But here, you want to bring what comes from the allowing sensation slightly more into action. So start to feel your sitting bones, your feet on the floor, but keep softening the organs of perception. Notice your exhalation. Now, the very beginning of the inhalation, the spark, let that come up through your body. Expand your rib cage. And then let it back out. It's like asana dips into the emptiness and brings it into action. So you're exhaling back towards the lake water, and then you're inhaling and bringing it out and up. Now, even more attention to the sitting bones and feet. Lift up the very low abdomen up through a lifting chest. Broaden across the shoulders, between the shoulder blades. Open the space between the shoulder blades. But on the back side, as you lift the front side of the sternum. Re-soften the jaw, the inside of the mouth. Now, as you sit here sturdy and alert on your sitting bones, feel the whole room, even with your eyes closed. Let go of your day and prepare your mind to do yoga. Good, and then release. Take your sternum up towards your chin down over your sternum. Keep your mind in your feet and your sitting bones. The rib cage slightly more alert because of the position. Notice your breath into each nostril, into each lung. Keep consciousness in your sitting bones and feet. Let your breath touch everything. Good, and then raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So this idea of the interplay between inhalation and exhalation. So just pay attention to it a little bit. So you expand on inhalation. And unless you're doing yoga, you might kind of collapse on exhalation. But I want you to stay alert, because asana in your body is here whether you're inhaling or exhaling. Like your body precedes both. So sit up straight and tall. And instead of collapsing on exhalation with your body, inhale, exhale as if the back ribs are coming forward, pushing forward, and lengthen on the exhalation. So in other words, don't just take the breath, the inhalation, and do nothing with it. Take it in and then lengthen your spine on exhalation. So you're actually doing something. Remember, there's a whole component of what's called karma yoga, the fact that you have the gift of living and you're supposed to give back and be of service. And it starts with your inhalation and exhalation. That the exhalation isn't just you take it and collapse. You exhale and move into action. Good, and then release. And then, there's no one way to breathe in poses, but in general, you inhale when you're coming up through gravity. And you usually exhale as you lengthen, as you move into whatever the pose is. But that's your whole life, right? It's not just a yoga pose. So you're watching the inhalation and exhale and come slightly forward. So we're just taking the beginning part to synchronize, and then inhale and come back to neutral, and then exhale and come forward. Inhale back up, exhale forward. Inhale back up, exhale forward. And then come back to neutral and just be in neutral. And sit up with your feet, down flat well and in your sitting bones. So every action, right, is a taking in from the world. I remember I heard Richard Freeman teach this thing. I thought it was so goofy when I heard it the first time. And then a few years later, I started to realize maybe what he meant. He said, when you inhale, bring the whole world towards you. Like everything. And I don't mean the world like, I'm not thinking about Louisiana right now, right? the state of Louisiana, I'm actually like just taking and inhaling and thinking that something's coming towards you on inhalation, which is literally is. Right. So a lot of times how I've thought about it is like if you have like a tablecloth on a set table and you pull on the tablecloth and all the dishes come towards you, right? That's actually happening on inhalation. And then the exhalation somehow magically brings the tablecloth back to its place. So this exchange of bringing everything, I remember hearing that first time going, oh, come on, bring the whole universe towards you, what the hell? Except if the universe is already integrated, then there isn't one central place. There isn't one center, it's all the center, right? So you really could bring the whole universe towards you, right? And so you're just making that kind of exchange. And then you're setting things back. So the coordination of inhalation and moving against gravity, inhale and take your left arm up. So once I start to feel this rib cage expand here, that can help my arm going up. And then exhaling it back down. And then inhaling and taking the arm up. Unfortunately, when I have to talk, I have to exhale in order to talk. So I'm not doing what I'm telling you to do because I'm talking, right? Good, and then come on down. And then again, lean over to the right. Now we're just kind of waking up because, right? Going over, coming forward, coming back, because I want your spine to get a sense that it's part of the breathing. And then come forward again. And then back. So you're trying to move things around. So now more input is coming to your brain because you're shifting gravity. So go to the left, the right, and then the left. And you're just like, now all this new input, as you lean forward, the weight on your feet changes, the weight on your sitting bone changes. All this input starting to come into your body, into your brain, right? Because there's a lot happening in every single movement. And a lot of what yoga is trying to coordinate more of the happening, right? What's interesting, and then come back to center. What's interesting to me, and I've been thinking a lot about this and teaching it this way for a while now, is how, Pratyahara, which is this fancy word that means a withdrawal from the senses, right, is one of the preconditions. Like, so your consciousness, according to some of the yogic stuff, it will follow your sense organs. Like you'll follow it, but part of you wants to stay home. So there's a constant battle between or tension between staying inward and moving outward. So asana is going to be a moving outward that you're supposed to practice moving while staying inward, right? So that's pratyahara. So this word that sounds so fancy, it's just, well, obviously when you close your eyes, you have less input. You've gone inward. As you know, there's some very simple ways to try to make yourself go inward some. So feel your sitting bones and feel your feet down flat. Already that takes you away. Like if you're trying to feel your sitting bones and pay attention to your feet, you probably wouldn't want to be reading a book right then. It'd be hard to be outward, right? So this idea, and now last week was talking about feel the space between your ears and your shoulders. We did that for headstand last week, right? But all this type of instruction is trying to keep you balanced between inside and out instead of just going out. Now, the idea of yogic philosophy or yogic insight is that if you only follow the sense world, the sensory world, you'll suffer more, right? That you actually need to do both. And so as you're balancing, lift your chest and your back body, feel your back body. So you're trying to balance back body awareness and front body awareness in every pose. That's a way that your brain has to take more in. It has to be more inwardly aware. Now, as this comes to movement, you're going to start to have asana happen. All right, and then release. So attention to your breath is one of the ways that you can go inward. All right, so lift up. Even if you can't come off your seat, I want you to lengthen your spine, right? And then back down, and then forward on exhalation, and come back, and inhale up and over the back of your chair, right? And then exhale into neutral, and then take an inhalation and exhale over to the side. And then come back up and exhale over to the side. And then come back up. Inhale back up over your chair. Exhale forward. So you're trying to get your spine to feel like it's breathing, right? So instead of it just being the air into your lungs, as you inhale, again, I want you to feel the back side of your body, the back side of your spine. As you inhale space into the front side of your chest. Lengthen the spine on exhalation. Find a balance between the interplay between inhalation and exhalation. And so now, instead of just turning our heads, I want you to anchor here and turn your head over to the right. And then back to center. Make sure you exhale in the center. Inhale, and then anchor here and turn your head over to the left. And then come back to center. And now, I don't know if you can anchor here. I hope most of you noticed that you had to ground your sitting bones to do that, to anchor here. Right? So you anchor here, you feel your sitting bones, and now include your heel, inner heels. And then take an inhalation. And then exhale into the action. So now it's becoming more full-bodied. And then back to the middle. And then inhale again. Feel your heels and your sitting bones. Exhale while you're anchored here. And then come on back to center. So now your brain and your awareness is calling on more of you in the movement, right? There is more of you here. It says, I practice asana for self-realization. I don't know what you all practice it for, right? Exercise is part of self. They'll come forward onto your table or onto your lap. So I'm trying to make sure that quiet space, now I try to lengthen my spine with it. So I'm leaning forward. I'm hitting down with my sitting bones. I have a rotation in my rib cage from the scoliosis. So I'm rotating or derotating so I can feel both sitting bones more equally. In other words, I'm trying to gather more of me up from my body to my mind, not just from my mind to my body. So when I'm here, I'm rotated into my scoliosis. As I unrotate or derotate and feel more of me, that's where I want to breathe. I want more of me doing the asana, not less of me, right? And so there's all sorts of ways. So now broaden across your collarbones, broaden across your sacrum, feel your sitting bones, inner groin to the inner knee and down to the inner heel. So now my brain is paying attention to more, and I'm breathing. Good, and then release. So again, sit up straight in neutral, soften the organs of perception inside of the mouth, face, around the eyes, feel your sitting bones in your feet, but keep this awareness that's softer. That's the space between the vertebrae and the low back too. So keep it soft and come forward again. And don't just lengthen your spine, which would, the physical instruction would be hit down with your sitting bones and lift through your chest. But try to find your sitting bones and then move slowly up your spine and trying to bring more awareness. So you're pushing there a little bit, but I want you to remember the space that's revealed when you keep the organs of perception soft. So you're trying to combine both. Good, and then release. Remember, if I can coordinate more of me into any action. So inhale, take your left arm up. Exhale, bring it to the side. Inhale, take your other arm behind you. So I don't care how far you twist, but so I'm going to work on my twist instead of how far I go. I'm going to try to lift right here and feel my sitting bones simultaneously. So here's me not doing that. Here's me hitting down through my sitting bones, lifting my sternum. You can see all the mind body solutions words rise. And as I rise there, I'm staying more connected to my feet. So I'm not, and I could turn more, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna work on it right here and try to find a balanced breathing pattern, not just a strained one. Good, and then come on back to center. And then inhale and take your right arm up. And then exhale and bring it down. And then inhale and find the place over here. And again, right, I'm going to work more here, right, in order to keep, and I already know from turning my head that in order to lift here, I have to have my sitting bones and my feet involved. So I could, turn more, but I'm not going to, you can today. I'm going to try to keep my twist deep in the midline. Inhale, exhaling from the back ribs. Good, and then come on back to center. One of the strengths of an adaptive practice, which I think really brings yogic insight, is that if you can learn not to be greedy to do more, that you'll actually have more yoga insight happen. So now I'm going to put my forearms down to my legs here. Some of you have the table, that's great, But I want you to get grounded. Remember we did a lot of stuff, like this last week, right? There's a lot of stuff like that. So now I'm doing a different part of this. So if someone were preparing for headstand, they'd be on their knees, their hands and knees, and they'd interlock their hands, right? And don't squeeze them together, but you want to watch what happens. So if I put my hands like this, right, and I squeeze them, feel that locks things up. But if I let the webbing of my fingers try to reach to the opposite wrist, as opposed to just grind them together, but if I try to reach from the web between each finger to the opposite wrist, the action in my shoulders changes, right? It deepens. So now when you come forward, I want you to lean on your forearms, and I want you to coordinate the pressure on the forearms with this more aware connection between your fingers, right? And then you reach from the webbing between each finger towards the opposite wrist, right? And lift your chest. Now, in order to lift your chest, you got to hit the shoulder blades down, right? And what I want you to do is get this length between here and here. I want you to do it while you're leaning forward, right? So you're making your hands be more engaged, right? And then you're lifting your chest. Taking a few breaths. So now you've got this engagement, not only of the connection between your webs of your fingers and your forearms working on your femur bones, right? But now I want you to lift your chest and lengthen your neck. Drop the shoulder blades down the body. Breathe now in a way that includes your legs, right? So remember, the whole universe can come towards you. So make sure on inhalation, you're picking up your legs on inhalation. And then on exhalations, you lengthen. So this actually should be a decent amount of work if you're doing all that I'm asking. Good, and then release. The one thing about yoga that I love and I hate is that when you don't do what you're being asked to do, you're the only one that gets to know if you're cheating, right? You're the only one. A teacher can catch you sometimes, right? Can kind of go, hey, you're not doing that with the most intensity, but there's an utter and complete honesty between you and the universe when you're doing a yoga pose. And you get to know, yeah, I don't have it today. So I'm just going to let Matt give out too many instructions and I'm going to do what little I want to do, right? And that's cool, right? Except you're only cheating yourself, right? So it's one of those things where I love how intimate my poses are to the universe, right? And it's just like, yeah, I'm the one that, and some days I don't work as hard. That's cool. So do it again. So I know I'm asking you to pay attention to little things right now, right? I get it. So the webbing of your hands, reaching for the opposite wrist, weight. So I don't want you just to collapse onto your legs. I want you to lengthen your upper arm, right? So I want you to hit down with your forearms into your leg and lengthen your upper arm. So I'm both pushing into my femur bone and away from it. And once I do that, you notice how your chest lifts, right? When I actually engage the arms in both directions, the upper arms, right? And then I'm connecting my web of my hands and reaching opposite and lifting my chest. Now I'm going to lengthen both sides of my neck, feel that all the way down to my sitting bones, broaden across the sacrum, across the collarbones. And now I unfortunately get to notice that I breathe better into my right lung than my left lung. Dang it. So I'm going to try to coordinate that. And it's not a coincidence that I shorten that side of my head, that side of my neck. So I'm actually doing all this stuff to show me the places that my mind hasn't been in as much. And I'm using my breath to touch it all. Good, and then release. One of the things that headstand does is because you have weight on your head, and I showed you the picture last week, right? That there's a calming energy that happens. So take a hand and put it on top of your head, right? And so, we know this would be what we're doing, but I want you just to let that. So not only, let the calming come down, but reach into your hand too. So lengthen and calm. Good, and then release, do it with the other arm. So like the little secrets, right? I can't do it as good on this arm because of my rotator cuff. I can't believe that one side's so different. But I'm going to hit down onto the top of my head and reach in. Now, in order to hit down is easy from the outer world. But in order to reach my head up into my hand, I have to practice some Pratyahara. In order to feel my spine going in two directions, I have to go inward away from the senses to hit into my head, right? And then release. So keep that imprint on the top of your head. I can still feel my hands there, which is what someone upside down is getting. Come forward again, interlock your fingers. Reach the webbing to the opposite wrist. Lift the chest, hit down for the sitting bones, lengthen between the shoulders and your ears, shoulder blades down. Now I want to have that calming on the top of my head that I'm happy to do it from memory, because headstand is a meditation pose. It's a balancing meditation. So I'm not feeling my breath. In order for me to feel the imprint of my hand on the top of my head, I have to go inward, right? The memory lies within. So I'm having to drive inward here. Good, and then release. Come on back up. So now I want you to lift your sternum and drop your chin. So I want you to put more attention here. So lift your sternum, drop your chin. So one of the things that I love about the dropping of the chin is that it makes you go inward as the energy is surging because your spine is lifting. Right? Remember last week we were talking about shoulder stand and headstand. And this is the queen of all yoga poses, this activation. But sometimes I say you drop your chin in humility, but you drop your chin inward. Right? So you're lifting up with energy. You're dropping your chin. Good, and then release. So I want you to lean over to the right. Inhale and extend. So take an inhalation. And on the exhalation, I want you to extend through your spine. And as you do, I want you to bring your shoulder blade into your body and lengthen beyond your fingertips. So the inhalation, and I go deeper into the world on exhalation. Good, and then release. Remember, the inhalation draws the world towards you. The exhalation enters the world more. Okay, so go over to the other side. And again, there's going to be this length. So I'm paying attention to my inhalation, letting it expand everywhere, and lengthen on the exhalation through my spine, making my shoulder blade. That's me not doing it right with my shoulder blade. That's me doing it right with my shoulder blade. Good. And then come on back up. Sit in neutral. If you can, take the front of your hands on your knees and press your hands, your femur bone from your knees towards the hip socket. So I don't know how much you can see behind my own name tag, but I'm hitting back. Right, some pop in here. Let them in. So you're feeling the grounding sensation of hitting back towards your pelvis. But now as you do that, I want you to lengthen the underside of your arms. So you're hitting back and you're lengthening the skin on the underside of the arms. Good, and then release. And then again, surge from the grounding into the lift. Good, and then release. So I'm going to take one leg, my left leg off the pedal, move it to the right. Well, actually, I want to do something first. Right? I want you to have your legs both like this. Take your knees slightly apart. And I want you to take the back of your arms, right, and push out against the leg, right? And then if you're comfortable doing this, take your legs a little wider and do it again. So all I'm doing is adding more effort to get, so especially if you sit a lot, we're all often tight right through here. So all I'm doing is trying to get a stretch, so here, of hitting my arms and widening my legs more, getting down through my sitting bones, lifting up through my chest, and then release. Because I can tell this doesn't get that much opening, right? Especially if you're not standing all the time. And even people that walk around don't get open there very often. So I'm just trying to feel that, right? And then release. And then I want to put my hands on my knees again. So what I'm doing is making impressions on your brain, right? I'm not making them. You're doing this stuff to keep a sense of grounding. Good, and then release. Bring your legs back more underneath you. Okay, so this is going to get a little tricky. It's going to be more tricky for me maybe and some of you than for others because I don't have as much trunk balance, right? All right, so got too much stuff on my chair. Hold on 1 second. Too many books and papers. Just dropping that off so it doesn't slide on me, right? So now I want you to take your left leg off, right? And I want you to take this. So I'm grabbing my foot pedal, but I want you to take the back of your arm against your knee, widen it. At the same time, I want to take your right hand and pull it into your, push into your femur bone as I'm pushing out this way, right? So I'm getting this feeling, because if I was in a standing pose and standing up, this leg would be out straight, and I'd be telling you to press down through your inner heel into the floor. Because I can't get that action, I'm trying to get you to get it by pressing on the knee while you're opening your groin, your leg this way. And take a breath. Lengthen the spine. Good, and then release. Take stock of where you are. Start to engage again. So now you're going to press in on your knee. You're going to open your knee this way, right? Keep that impression and take your arm up. Right? So I'm going to go back down, press on my knee again, find the grounding in this leg, and then go back up. Extend from your spine out through the knee. Open that groin this way. Good, and then release. Come back to center. Put both legs. So it's one of those things that no one does in light on yoga, or very few people do, is he always, between each side, he always wants you to be in Tadasana before you go to the other side. Right? So it's actually, the Bhikkhu Zangar usually makes sense to pay attention to what he's actually trying to instruct. Right? So again, I'm feeling, I've got one leg that's been more open, but I'm trying to find Tadasana, my sitting bones, my heels. And I'm trying to calm myself down, because that was a little bit hard, especially when I was talking, by putting some pressure on my knees and bringing alertness to my spine. Good, and now I'm going to go the other way, right? So now I've got my right foot off, right? And I'm going to put the back of my hand and make that go a little farther open, so you can see the tightness. I'm spasming there, right? And so then I'm going to take this hand and like kind of close the circuit. So when I just push this way, my spine's collapsed. It's not quite as yogic. When I do this and hit in, look what happens to my spine. It rises. When I don't, I can do things out here, but I don't have my whole body with me as much. So I make this connection first between grounding in my legs and openness. Take a couple of breaths and then release. Because in a second, I'm going to ask you to feel this and take your arm wide. So again, here I go again. Here I got the grounding sensation. So this would be equivalent to a standing person pressing down to the outer rim of the back heel. Right? And now open the arm up. Exhale through your legs, both legs. Take the inhale up, expand, exhale into action. And then come on back to center. Bring both legs back to this midline. So now I want you to come forward, right? I'm going to use my desk. So I want to get even better length in my low back. We can come on your thighs, right? So I want my low back to actually elongate. I want to use my breath to help make that space. But not just my breath. I want to broaden across my sacrum and lift my sternum. Work my arms. All this simultaneity requires that your mind goes inward away from the senses. Good, and then release and come on up. Now, I want you to inhale, exhale forward. Now lift the chest on inhalation. Back over the back of your chair. Exhale forward again. Inhale up. Exhale to neutral. Inhale up and over the back of your chair. Exhale forward. So what's nice about this is that the spine is getting to stay in a singular plane, right? Because it's staying in line with each leg. That's not going to happen in most yoga poses. This is like a luxury, right? And then exhale forward, inhale up, exhale, inhale up, exhale forward, take an inhalation, exhale forward, inhale up, exhale back into neutral, inhale up and over, lengthen if you are comfortable doing it from your sternum through your chin. Good, and then come on back. Okay, so that midline. So sometimes BK Sengar, I just watched a video a couple weeks ago where he talks about the plumb line, you know, like the line that's through the center, right? And he made this comment that I find to be really intriguing, right? He says, the way you practice alignment and symmetry is to put your limbs, your extremities into the plumb line, even though they're out. Okay, so it's like one of those weird instructions that your brain can do, but your mind can't. All right, so take your arms wide. So clearly, and then back to the middle, like clearly there's an expansion here. You know, and if I don't pay attention to my midline, it just kind of happens, right? But now I want you to stay in your chest, in your sitting bones, right? And even as your arms come out wide, I want them to stay connected to the plumb line. And breathe. And then back together. Now take your legs off the pedals in both directions, right? So again, what's interesting, remember, your mind is going to want to follow outward. And that's, the yogis are going to tell you, that's one of the ways to suffering, right? Is through attachment. So it's like Buddhism, you know, right? And but so what but you still have to live in the world, right? So your legs are going wider into the world, but if you can keep them in the plumb line, right? If you can follow, so now extend with your legs a little bit wide from the inner groin to the inner knee, broaden across the sacrum. And as you feel the movement of energy that way, stay in the plumb line. Good, and then release. So for me, it teaches a couple different ways. One for me is going to be, I think, better for my yoga practice, right? And one's going to be better for my mind to think I'm doing yoga, okay? Because the mind wants to like do the yoga too. So your legs are apart. I'm pulling on the seat of my chair. I'm lifting my spine up, right? So if I wanted to do this pose while staying connected to the plumb line, which in order to stay connected to the plumb line, you have to withdraw from the senses, right? Instead of taking my arms wide, I'm going to extend from the center of the chest out through the tip of each shoulder as if my arm was wide, right? So I'm going to sit here with my legs wide, feel the plumb line. broaden across my chest. Bring my back body forward. Exhale from the inner groin to the inner knee. And broaden this way. As if I had my arms going straight out. And then release. So that, I know, would be more like doing yoga. So now I'm going to do it the way my mind wants to do it, because I want to, right? I want to feel more. Instead of having that kind of discipline it takes to do less. Because, by the way, doing less takes discipline. Okay? And take my arms wide. And now my spine, I can tell you, is compressing. Okay, I'm still going to try to lengthen the plumb line, hitting down through the sitting bones, lifting up through the top of the chest. As I extend both my inner groin to my inner knee and out through my wrists to beyond my fingertips. I want to lengthen the plumb line. Take a couple of breaths. Good, and then release. So if I wanted to find a middle ground between the two, again, I'm going to grab my seat. I'll back up here. It's kind of hard to move around with your legs floating off your foot pedals, though. Right? Whoa. Ooh, that was dangerous. I almost tipped over. Oops, in order to back up, I got to put my foot back on my pedals. All right, so now I tried to wheel without moving my legs again. That was dumb. All right, I was trying to save dumb time. All right, so now what I was talking about here is like extending, having my spine up, broadening across between my shoulder blades, across my chest, hitting down through the sitting bones and extending out through each knee, right? When I take both arms wide, I collapse in my spine. I take my arms wide. So my shoulders are having to work too extra hard here, but it makes me feel like I'm doing more yoga. So it's good. And then release. Now, if I want to do it some mid version, I'm going to grab my chair or my seat. I'm going to come into the thing, and I only do one arm at a time. Right? So I can stay grounded, my spine lifted. Inhale, expand to the top through the top of your head. Don't forget the hand on the top of your head to calm you down. Go beyond your fingertips on the exhalation. And then I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to take a breath here. An inhalation and an exhalation. And then I'm going to inhale and take my arm wide. I'm going to exhale and lengthen my spine. Be of service to the world on the exhalation. Good. And then back, exhale. Inhale. Exhale and lengthen from your spine. So you have to keep the arms in the plumb line, even as you extend through them. Inhale and then exhale here. Inhale here. Exhale into the world by keeping my spine long. Good, come on back to center. Be in the center with both legs wide. Put your hands on both knees. Push back on your knees. Introduce some grounding. Keep your right hand on your right knee. Inhale and take your arm wide. Keep grounding that knee. Lengthening your spine. Lifting your chest. Lengthening the spine. Exhale. Down to the knee. Ground. Inhale up. Again, I'm trying to create the stability of the standing pose by grounding my femur bone. And pulling it wide. Inhale, exhale back to both knees. Find symmetry. Inhale up again. Grounding the right knee, lengthening the spine. Taking the arm up a little bit now. Exhaling it back down. Inhaling it. Grounding that knee, pulling it wide. Gonna bring it up a little bit more. Exhaling it back. Both hands on both knees. Bring your hands, grab the center of your chair or the floor. If you're on the floor. Taking a couple of breaths. Right hand on the right knee. Inhale it up. Exhale it, bring it all the way over to the right leg. Grab the hand behind you. So now your legs are wide, although you're pulling your legs together a little bit with your hand. Try to lengthen, try to widen your legs so you're creating more pressure on this hand. And use that to help you turn. Good, and then inhale, back up with the arm. Exhale down. Come back to midline. Inhale up. Exhale, come down to the outside. And now, but you're still trying to keep your legs wide, right? So you're using that as leverage. And you start to turn. And then inhale back up. Exhale, touch both of your knees. Bring your legs together. Now I can tell my groins have been wide for a while. So just because I know to help myself, I'm gonna take the heel of my hands and push them down on my femur bones and pushing in a way that my legs go slightly together again. So I'm trying to take some of that stretch out of my groin. So I'm just sitting here feeling that. Finding my center again. Now bring a hand on both knees. Practicing symmetry. Breathing into it. Softening my gaze. So I can, because we just did, when you were working, there's a good chance you gripped your organs of perception. And it's almost impossible not to, in the inside of your mouth. So as you're heading back towards Savasana, you're actually trying to find symmetry again and re-soften the organs of perception. Because there's a good chance you stretched more on one side than the other. I know I did. So I'm finding the symmetrical center. Good. And then prepare for Savasana, however you do that. As you know, I like to make sure I get comfortable. I put my hands in my lap, palms up, one hand on top of the other, my thumbs touching. But however, whatever you do, make there be relief, right? And subtlety. So for me, it seems like a little thing, but I put my hands like this and I make my thumbs touch just slightly. And I want there to be a suppleness in the midst of Shavasana, right? So so you're clunking down to the floor and letting your chair hold you up. And it could be all your fingertips if you wanted. It could be like this, but you're balancing because you want your subtle body to get nourishment in Shavasana. So soften the skin on the face or on the temples. So now you're doing this not as preparation for asana, but as preparation for support. So let go of the inside of your mouth. I don't know if any of you have made any progress on letting go of your teeth and your gums, right? One of the ways to do that is let your mouth feel like a cave. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Relax around the temples. All the while letting your body land. Feel the home. Let it nourish you. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Thank the quiet, the nourishing quiet. Quiet's not loss. It's resilience. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation. Slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. If it's too much, close them again. Choose to open. All right, everybody. If you're ready, bring your hands together if you can. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.